This is so sweet. Oh god, how does this thing even work? Here we are, instruction manual. Must be Italian. Right, yes, Windows 10 I believe is installed. I have the Siri voiceover system working. This is perfect. The ultimate fusion of Windows 10 and Apple technology, if you ask me. Oh, I've got an incoming call. Right, that's this button, beep, 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 boop. Oh yes, hello Borbertos.
Wait, what? Where are you, Lawrence?
Check it out, Borbertos. Do you like my new Star Destroyer?
It's some. How did you afford a Star Destroyer?
Yeah, it was money I made from the last video. Monetization shit is pretty fucking sweet. What do you think? It's pretty nice, isn't it? Look at this. Got some buttons over here. Got some more buttons here.
Maybe I can help with another video? I have this idea for top 10 worst leveling zones. And maybe we could buy me something nice with the money you make.
You're useless. Just end call, end transmission, Siri, end the call. Right, so I need to do a video, like my last one, that's also a top 10. Oh, this is perfect. I've got the ultimate idea. I'm going to do the exact opposite of last video, but then actually bring up relevant issues. So this video is actually going to be like better than the last one. Oh, this is perfect. This is genius. Cue credit scroll.
Starting with number 10.
Manaan takes number 10 on our list today, not because I hate it, not because it's a bad planet, but because it has too much untapped potential. Manaan is the lost soul of SWTOR, flying across the abyss, never to be heard from or seen again. It is this planet that has so much potential. Not only was it around back in 2003 with the original launch of KOTOR, but Manaan has represented a lot of Star Wars' culture for many years, and most of the fan base agree that Manaan needs to have something added. As it stands, Manaan is nothing more than a single quest hub for the Forged Alliance questline Part 2, and nothing happens with it. You go there literally as a diversion, a bit of a change of scene, so you get to see some more scenery before you continue doing the Forged Alliance flashpoint. There is absolutely nothing there. There are no PvP hubs, no quest lines, no reputation vendors. There's nothing. It is just this barren planet with a flashpoint, one vendor, and a medical bay. That is actually all there is on the planet, and the fan base really has had enough of it. I've got a quote here from Emeraldon that says, "It's sad that Manaan was just left where it is. There's nothing there. I didn't expect a daily zone or PvP hub with farming materials, but right now Manaan is more dead than post-Vitiate Ziost, and what he's saying is Manaan is barren," which I couldn't agree more with. They need to do more with Manaan as a planet, and the devs have been talking about it. They even left a sign on Manaan that said in construction, so they were planning to add more, but they never got around to it and eventually just removed the sign, which is very disappointing considering how in-depth Manaan is to KOTOR lore. If you go back to 2003 with Knights of the Old Republic, there it is. They're standing strong, a huge city, and there's tons to do there in terms of quests, whilst in SWTOR as it stands at the moment, there is nothing. It is literally just barren, and there's not even an NPC to fight. It is just this quest hub for the Forged Alliance campaign, which is really difficult to sort of come to terms with being a Star Wars fan. So we'd like to see something there for sure, and I think you all agree. The really sad bit about this planet actually is that fans have gone out of their way to make prospective Stronghold content that, well, was supposed to encourage the devs to go and do something with Manaan. And in fact, I'll show you this Stronghold prospect by Catul, and he has made this beautiful Stronghold. You need to go check out the rest of his content over on Tor Fashion. It's this site where you basically can upload skins and stuff and concept art of what you think should be added to the game, and this guy has gone out of his way to basically build the Stronghold for them. And the fact that EA has completely ignored this, or BioWare or the Star Wars support staff, is kind of unfortunate, because this is remarkable. It shows exactly what the fans want, because we want something like this. We want to go to Manaan and feel like we're a part of it, and then we want, like, I think, personally, we can all agree, I haven't actually asked anyone on this, but I'd like to think that they'd put a quest hub there, and you can leave your house, maybe go underwater or something. That'd be pretty cool. You're getting it, EA, and there could be a quest line on Manaan to do with, like, some submarine thing, and all of it flooded, or maybe you could explore the ocean depths and pick up materials, you know, somehow implement water into the game, like WoW, you know, that game that came out way before you, but, you know, I can't really get too fishy with that, but you get the idea. I think that Manaan has so much potential, and they really need to do something with it before it's too late and everyone moves on to further stuff with Fallen Empire.
Number 9.
Korriban rightfully deserves number 9 on my list because, honestly, I don't think SWTOR does Korriban justice, considering Korriban is supposed to be this lore-rich Sith stronghold about all the ancient Sith rituals and is supposed to be filled with lore, immersive content, and instead in SWTOR we seem to have this little niche temple that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, and there is very little reference to previous Sith lords, and you'd think a huge academy like this would have lore everywhere. You know, it should all be about the Sith lore, and instead they make it about grinding core slugs and basically just the trials. And the trials is a big part of course, Sith lore, but I'd like there to be perhaps a bit more about the ancient Sith and a bit more about the traditional values of being a Sith rather than all this quest nonsense. Now, of course, I am aware they adapted it to be an MMO, but it would be nice if they could maybe add a tomb or a tomb to a specific Sith Lord, it doesn't really matter who, and maybe this tomb is filled with hidden secrets, traps, and it's not something you would normally do as part of a quest. It's like a little hidden thing, you know, like when you're playing a game like Guild Wars 2, that's filled with hidden secrets everywhere. It'd be nice if SWTOR were to take a little bit of influence from that and perhaps add a lore-filled tomb. It doesn't have to necessarily be speech, but I would prefer speech because, you know, that's the sort of Star Wars way. But I wouldn't mind if you, like, hovered over a wall and maybe it gave you some hidden text on your screen and you're like, whoa, I'm learning stuff, all these hidden secrets, and perhaps a bit of parkour to get to it, so it's actually quite a struggle, a challenge. And I think that would actually bolster and improve Korriban significantly from how it stands. Returning to the current issue, of course, is why I don't like Korriban, and I think a lot of you will agree in saying that Korriban is just left, and it is very aggravating because there are bugs on Korriban that have been there since the beginning, like the ability to jump out of the map. I'll show you this here. Look, you can literally just climb out of the map still, and this has been an issue since the game's launch. This is a starting planet. There should not be a means of escaping the map. And not only that, but you can explore the whole sort of above ground area of Korriban by wall jumping. And it's like, you're not meant to be up there. This is not where you're meant to be. Of course, it's fun for like me and other players, and it'd be a bit of a pain if they patched it. But you're sort of sitting there going, this has been out for like 5 years, right? Almost. I'd like to think maybe you'd patch things a little bit more, but that's just my opinion. But hey ho, if you actually look at Korriban in a bit more depth as well, the Korriban Flashpoint, Korriban Incursion, is a flashpoint the only flashpoint associated with Korriban, and it takes place at level 55 to 60. So players that actually do enjoy Korriban don't get to do the flashpoint for that planet until they've finished every other planet. So it's like, you do the starting part of Korriban and you do your class quest, you leave the planet, and then you come back at 55 to 60, a planet that you've done, and fight the exact same enemies, and they're just as hard, if not harder, because they're part of a flashpoint. And you have to sort of sit there and process, so I've got all this experience and I've gone up in the levels and I've fought harder and harder mobs, and then I'm still struggling against core slugs. It's sort of like, why have this huge level jump if it's going to be just as difficult? But that's my opinion. And now, another point that I think's a good reason for me not to like Korriban is there is some personal bias here. Not only is it the starting planet, but I have leveled about 20 characters through Korriban, and a lot of the people I spoke to while making this video have also leveled characters through Korriban so many times, so of course it's perfectly plausible for us all to hate it just because we've done it so much. But still, I still think it deserves number 9 on this list.
Number 8.
Dromundkaas takes number 8 on my list because it's pretty simple actually. It is just a disappointing planet. The scene is always dull and dreary. The stronghold is just as dull and dreary, and if anything is the exact same as the Coruscant stronghold, just with a different exterior texture. It's all just a miserable disappointment. As well, the content for Dromundkaas is just terrible. It's everything you don't want to do, but half-assed. So when you just start to get into the Revanite content, for example, you go to that little camp. I'm sure most of you know what I'm on about. Those of you who haven't actually played the game won't know. But there is a little camp. You do about 5 quests there. And the next thing you know, it's all dropped. You move on to the next section. And it's like, but I just got into that. Why move me to the next section? And then when you get to the next section, or you go to Lord Gratham's estate, just as disappointing. You start there, you look around it a bit, find Rev Knight's Mask, do a whole bunch of little side quests, and then you're like, oh, that's awesome, I'm really eager to continue this campaign. Oh, wait, we're moving. Okay, next. And then it takes you to the Dark Temple, and the second you walk in there, you're literally out. That's it. It's about 10 seconds. And you're like, but it's the Sith part. It's the only interesting part. I mean, if you've done the Inquisitor, you know there's the bit of the Tulak Horde tomb, and there's a few other tombs you go to through other campaigns and side quests, but you want there to be like a heroic 4 at the bottom of it, or some legendary instance that you fight a boss in, or maybe an ops, or something crazy. It's like, yeah, a level 10 ops, but you know, you could have like a level 60 ops there, or something really interesting and engaging. But no, it's just all half-assed content that drops itself, and that is just really disappointing.
Number 7.
Balmorra. Yep, I said it. Balmorra takes number 7. And I know all of you are sitting there thinking, those of you who play SWTOR, why is it only 7? It should be number 1. Balmorra is the planet of sin. It is the worst in the game by far, and I hate it. And yes, I hate it too. But Balmorra does have a few features that I think are actually relatively interesting, like all the mobs are different textures to those around the world, and they don't use copied textures, so it shows they put some effort into it. And there are some interesting fights, like the world boss Grandfather is relatively interesting, and the heroics aren't half bad. I mean, come on, there are a lot of them, and you want that on most planets, and most planets fail to provide, but Balmorra does give you a fair share of heroics. But I still agree in the sense that the planet really ups itself. By this, I of course mean the planet always reminds you it's at war. We get it, okay? It's a strategic point of importance for both the Empire and the Republic. It is good for trade routes. It is good for hyperspace connections. It is important, we understand. But the way it constantly shoves it down our throats and drives us insane, the cannon sound alone, if you guys have heard that, I'm sure most of you remember it. It's a continuous pew in the background every 5 or 6 seconds, and it's like, I don't need to continuously hear the sounds to understand we're at war. It's not just that either. Every quest is to do with catching a place of strategic importance, or killing enough Republic troops to clear this section out, because for some reason killing 15 troops is going to make that big of a difference, and things like that. It's just such a grindy planet, and we get it, it's at war, but we don't need to be continuously reminded. Not to mention that once you've done all the boring BS there to do with the war, you have to come back later. And when I got that, when I was told during the Dreadseed questline that I had to go to Balmorra, my face just smacked against the desk. I was done. And it was so tedious as well, because the place that the Dreadseed is located is not very easily speeder accessible. So you take this huge travel route, only to then go out on your own through tons of mobs. You get aggroed by everything, you get shot off your speeder, you have to fight so much crap, and you finally get to the Dreadseed place, and when you're there, it's just full of mobs to aggro. It is just shit central. There is nothing you can do but get wrecked. So you sit there for ages, you end up having to get a group together usually to fight all these things off, but it is so tedious and annoying, the quests on Balmorra. It very easily makes number 7 on this list.
Number 6.
Hoth today is taking number 6. I'm sure all of you know Hoth from the original trilogy. It is featured in The Empire Strikes Back, and as well in the Clone Wars and numerous comic books, and of course in SWTOR. I have a quick quote here to basically summarize how SWTOR actually captures Hoth. As you can see, Mr. Blackjack says, least favorite planet is Hoth. The planet is completely underused and the storyline is little to no interest. This is also then picked up by Cheers Kent, who says, oh Hoth, every little rock looks like an interactable quest item, worst planet ever. What he of course means by this is that whenever you go to Hoth, you get this weird heavenly glow around all the hitboxes, as well as the sky being this weird pitch white colour. So whenever you look up, it's just blinding. And in fact, you notice it because when you come out of the caves, you get stunned for a second as a player, and you're sitting there saying to yourself, I wish I had sunglasses for a video game. It is just too bright. Which is also why the planet is often referred to as Snowblind the planet. It's an inside joke to the world boss being called Snowblind, but it's kind of interesting that the SWTOR community has actually begun taking the mick out of Hoth as a planet. Putting that to one side, Hoth as it stands is actually a relatively engaging planet. The class quest lines are clean and engaging, and the side quests are actually rather interesting to do and can be fun, especially if you're going around doing the heroics in a group. The only issue with Hoth is how long it takes to get anywhere. the fast travel routes are really spread out, and to get from point A to point B can actually usually take about 10-20 minutes. And then, of course, once you've done the quest, you have to go hand it back in, which can also take 10-20 minutes if you don't have fast travel available, which is actually really annoying. And it's the reason I don't like the planet. It's because whenever you want to do something, you have to bear in mind how long it's going to take you to do that. When you actually do quests on other planets, you can get the class quests done in maybe 10-20 minutes tops for each quest line. But when you're on Hoth, it can take maybe 2-3 hours, and you're sitting there sort of tediously driving through on your mount these zones that are just mob lifeless. There's nothing there. There's no challenge. There's no bosses. It's just traveling through this blinding environment for hours on hours on hours on end. And that is why Hoth is number 6 on this list. Oh, just very quickly before we move on from Hoth, I think one of the reasons I really do hate it as well is because there's this statistic-based mount drop you can get as a Tauntaun egg, and basically the idea is you go to each Tauntaun nest and you steal their eggs until one of them hatches into the mount. The mount itself has a very low drop rate, and it is a real pain in the ass to do, but everyone's got the mount, so you kind of have to do it if you want to sort of be in the top lot of players.
Number 5.
Tython takes its place at 5th on my list today, and don't get me wrong, I actually think Tython's an exceptional planet. I love the storyline, I like the content, I think the narrative's really good, I like how it arcs, and I also like it for both the Jedi Knight and the Jedi Counselor. I think that being a Padawan and sort of learning your way through the ranks is a really interesting way of developing your character, and the way that the Force is supposedly guiding your training is also equally as interesting. But honestly, the only reason I don't like Tython is because 2 words, and those 2 words are Flesh Raiders. That's it. That is the whole reason I think Tython is an appalling planet, just because as an antagonist, the Flesh Raiders are stupid in every way, shape and form. Their story is just ridiculous, and I feel like I'm playing a 5-year-old game half the time. It's more so the concept of the Flesh Raiders. It's the fact that they're this weak-ass race, and they're supposedly supposed to be stronger, or they're supposed to be a challenge for the Jedi Temple, a group of masters of the Force, people who have spent their entire lives becoming familiar with how to use the Force, and they're struggling against these weird shark things that have no experience in the Force, and for some reason they're being bested by them. It's sort of like not very convincing, and no matter how hard BioWare tries to shove it down my throat that the Flesh Raiders are actually a worthy adversary, they're not. It's simple, it's stupid, and I have no idea why it's proving to be such a challenge for the Jedi. And for that reason, Tython just takes 5th place. I just despise it purely because Flesh Raiders are dumb.
Number 4.
Ord Mantell takes number 4 on my list today. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have played on Ord Mantell before, and for nostalgic reasons, a lot of people tend to say they enjoy Ord Mantell. It has different zones, different themes, and cool-looking mobs at times, but overall, Ord Mantell feels light and pointless. This is kind of complicated to explain without spoiling the storyline, but it has no real significance. You go there to leave. Unlike Tython, which is home to the original Jedi Temple, and Korriban, which is home to the Sith Temple, and Hutta, which is home to the Hutt families, Ord Mantell is just Ord Mantell. It's an empty shell of a planet with no real purpose and no significance. There are no flashpoints associated with Ord Mantell, there is no ops with association with Ord Mantell, or even a PvP hub, let alone an RP scene, so Ord Mantell is just there. It is just simply there to introduce both the Trooper and Smuggler campaigns. I'd like to say more, but there really isn't much more to say. The side quests in Ord Mantell actually make you feel special. A lot of quests, including Mercy, for example, have the player simply grab medical supplies, then give it to 1 or 2 NPCs for either light side or dark side points, and you actually spend half of your time feeling like you are the legitimate bitch to the Republic. You don't even really know your purpose. All you know is that you are on Ord Mantell and you want to get off Ord Mantell, and that is simply why it's number 4.
Number 3.
CZ-198, also known as the Circa Industries daily location, is of course 3rd on our list today. I'm sure a lot of you will agree, Circa is an iconic faction from the good old KOTOR days, and of course with SWTOR being KOTOR's predecessor, you'd expect them to dedicate a lot more money and resources into creating the ultimate Circa Industries base location in SWTOR. But unfortunately, SWTOR does not do Circa Industries much justice. We get 2 grindy flashpoints, Circa Labs and Circa Core Meltdown, with boring bosses and weird mechanics. To expand on that, MMOs should be encouraged to produce content with mechanics that are difficult, and if not difficult, they should at least be engaging for the player. But instead, with the tactical flashpoints we were given, of course referring to Circa Labs and Circa Core Meltdown, we were given these pointless objectives to do during the boss fights, which I know sounds interesting, but it really wasn't, because we had to, for example, in Circa Core Meltdown on the final boss, you had to destroy the cores, and that felt incredibly tedious and was really pointless, because you'd fight the boss would jump away, and you'd destroy this core and DPS it down, and that was just a time filler, really. It wasn't engaging, and it wasn't amusing, and then if we didn't destroy the core in time, we had to kill more adds, and that's not really a mechanic. That's just like throwing more adds into a boss fight and delaying more time. It's not very engaging. And then also, there was the, well, very well-renowned button pressing of Circa Labs, when you had to push button to spawn mob that would kill other mob. Bam, that was it. That's their mechanic. Basically, what I'm saying is what BioWare needs to do is add mechanics to the game that will be intriguing and rememberable for each boss fight and make them more distinctive. Like with the Fallen Empire expansion, the Archon boss fight was a great example of this. When you got your shield out and you had to deflect Archon's force powers back at him, that was just so rememberable and so distinctive to that specific boss fight. It's going to make it really easy for me to remember, and in a couple of years' time it's going to be very nostalgic for me, and I feel EA needs to keep up the pressure with that and keep adding unique boss fights. As for the leveling zone itself, I think we can finish off with CZ198 by saying it's utter trash. All of it's terrible. It's the smallest daily zone in the game, with a whole bunch of grindy daily quests like kill 15 employees, get 15 canisters, all that boring stuff you don't want to do in an MMO. Sure, there's the odd little hidden mount you can get after grinding it for 3-4 hours. It's pretty boring. And there's the odd little secret achievement you can get. But that's about it. There's nothing really interesting about CZ198, and I really feel that they need to do something with it so it lives up to its reputation in the old KOTOR days.
Number 2.
Taurus takes number 2 on my list today, purely because everything about the planet is absolutely appalling. I mean, this could have made number 1. I'm going to start off with a quote here from Forced Wielder. Taurus rates as the worst planet in my opinion. There are no shortcuts on the planet. You stick to the same path and take the long scenic route. Any attempts to shortcut around and you will find yourself facing some wall or impassable debris field. It just gets beyond annoying. And he is most definitely not wrong. It's very hard to maneuver the planet. There's so much terrain that's not shown on the actual map itself, and there's loads of debris that isn't shown at all. It's just so complicated. Whenever you go around a corner, you think, oh, it's this way. You go around that corner and suddenly dead end, and you're like, but the map says quite clearly it's this way. But because there's so much debris from the destroyed city after it was blown from orbit, it's just so impossible to maneuver. And that's not even the half of it. I mean, there's thousands of people complaining about Taurus. I mean, I'll take an example here from Macbethian. He says that his worst planet is Taurus Republic. My god, was that place long. I just wanted to leave so badly, but I haven't even got halfway through my 4-level stay. And he has a fair point there in itself. It's the fact that Taurus is 4 levels long. And that's if you haven't subscribed, of course. If you're a subscriber, you can just do the class quests now. But there was a time where, for preferred players and old subscribers, you'd have to stay there and just farm and level, and it was horrible because you didn't like the planet and the content there was naff and dull. There was nothing to do. It just gets so same-oldy, boring, repetitive. You definitely don't want to stay there for any longer than you need to. And I think that's one of the saddest bits about Taurus, is the fact that we all know it's the planet. Even the devs know this. So instead of adding better content to Taurus, we get the ability to out-level the entire planet via the old Flashpoint boarding party and foundry. It's just since the beginning they've known no one's going to want to do Taurus. Maybe we should just have like a Flashpoint they can do instead on the side. Oh, that's genius. And they actually have a whole tangent Flashpoint storyline you can do instead of Taurus just to get out of doing Taurus. And it's like, so even the devs have lost faith in the idea of making Taurus a fun and engaging planet. Unfortunately, I don't really know if there is much they can actually do with Taurus. I mean, in terms of the Rakghoul plague, that was probably the most engaging and interesting storyline there, and that has already been turned into a bi-monthly event. And unfortunately, as Taurus stands, there's not much more to say about it. I mean, I'd like them to maybe add some more GSI side missions or something more than a tad of Dreadseed corruption. Maybe a new zone entirely on Taurus. That might make the planet a little bit more engaging. I mean, at least Hoth had the Gargath world boss added when level 55 came out. It'd be nice if they maybe did something like that with Taurus, maybe a new boss or something engaging. Maybe the Rakghoul plague gets out of control and completely overruns both the Republic and Imperial bases. Something on that lines. I think it would actually probably make the planet much better in the sense that there'd be something new to do there. As it stands, Taurus is quite possibly the worst planet in the game and is only getting worse by its neglect.
Number 1.
Corellia. Hell itself. The most abysmal planet in SWTOR. Now, there's a lot of controversy about this. I had half the people in my guild say that they despised this planet, and then I had the other half say they thought it was okay. But ultimately, we all sort of agreed that after doing 2 city planets, the time it took to do Corellia became very tedious. If you were doing all your leveling within the same couple of weeks, you had Nar Shaddaa and Coruscant if you were Republic side, or Dromundkaas and Nar Shaddaa if you were Imperial side, and then having to move and do Corellia, it felt like, more city, the same recycled and reused textures. It is sort of like they got to level 47 and they ran out of content, or they ran out of money perhaps. They thought, we've spent too much already, let's use the same textures from the other cities. And you sort of get there and it's like very anticlimactic considering it's the last leveling zone. It was just really disappointing for me, and most people agreed. And all of us in the guild combined all said that the class storylines really hit a stump at Corellia. All of them got really lame for a little bit. Agreeably, a lot of them concluded and it got back on track, and then they had the last mission, which was a great recovery. But Corellia itself was just tedious, boring, and dumb, and no one enjoyed it. In fact, I've got a quote here from the Star Wars Reddit. Account 9726 said, Corellia, extremely poor level design, quests involved inordinate backtracking, and few med centers combined with weird layout. Can mean a 5-minute drive back after death. By this point, anxious to just get to the story climax and not to do side quests. And if that's not enough, I have another quote here from Dirta, where he said, the thing about Corellia that always gets me is how empty it is, especially if you go datacron hunting. Some areas are completely abandoned, which I guess makes some sense. What with the war and all, it just seems like they made this massive planet and then forgot to fill it with stuff to do. Maybe they'll come back to it and add more later. Both of those points all add up to the same thing, and that is, in summary, that the layout of Corellia is just very boring, and the storyline that goes with it is just mediocre at best. It's just, it all looks very same old. It looks like every other planet. It's like they've copy and pasted everything for the end, and you don't want that. You don't want something anticlimactic at the very end game, because it's sort of, you've done all this work, you want to have like this big revelation at the end, like, whoa, okay, they're throwing out all the cards now, and that's what we want in an MMO. We don't want to get to the end game and be disappointed. That's just quite sad. So Corellia in general needs a lot more work before it can be really called the end game planet. And there we have it, guys, my top 10 worst leveling zones in Star Wars The Old Republic. I hope you liked this video. Feel free to comment down below your suggestions for my next video. And if you disagreed with this list, feel free to leave a comment saying your 10 least favourite leveling zones. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.
Hey there, oh yes, this outro. This is one super hot outro, makes me want to dance. Do you want to dance? What is life? Thank you for watching. We hope you like this video and we will see you next time. Oh shit, I'm late for work.